Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. While the NFL world exploded because of the Micah Parsons trade and Steelers fans got stir crazy about not making moves, I'm here to remind you they have a plan. There's a good plan there, and they should stick to it. That and more here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and as always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. Thank you for making us your first listen every day, because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. More on them later. All right, Steelers fans. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the Micah Parsons trade because it doesn't really involve the Steelers, but I thought it was a reminder of what you guys deserved a reminder of what the plan is for the Steelers, because I got several messages or several tweets and people reacting to it and saying, why can't Omar Khan do something like this? Where's the Steelers making a big splash like this? And of course, this is referring to the Micah Parsons trade. If you missed it, where were you? You were hiding under a rock on Thursday. But the Cowboys traded away Micah Parsons to the Packers, and the Cowboys got back 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. The Packers now acquiring Micah Parsons puts them very much in a lot of people's Super Bowl conversations because of where they are now. A lot of Steelers fans were coming in, we're hitting me up and like, Chris, this is the stuff that Omar Khan won't do. This is what you should be doing. You should be just trading away picks to get stars like Micah Parsons. First of all, it's not that simple. Second of all, Cowboys definitely got fleeced by the way. Like, Jerry Jones is crazy. I don't know how he didn't sign Micah Parsons to the deal that he's got from Green Bay. He's insane for letting this happen and only getting back 2 first-round picks that are going to be very low first-round picks for Micah Parsons. Sounds like, unless there's something we don't know about Micah Parsons, Cowboys got fleeced. I don't care what nobody says. The Packers are definitely up because of this. But where I saw a lot of Steelers fans being like, well, come on, man, this is right here for the taking. And look, that is a move when you are going all in a situation, when you are saying, hey, we can make this move. But the Packers are in a better position to be all in right now, because all in doesn't have to just be for 1 year. And again, the Steelers aren't all in for this year, despite what anyone tells you. The Packers are setting themselves up because they are in a prime position. They have Jordan Love, their franchise quarterback, under a current contract that keeps him with the team through 2028. And then, of course, they will re-up with him to go forward as long as he's still playing well. He's 27 years old. He's got years of experience. He's made some really good reads. He's one of the better, younger quarterbacks that are developing and continuing to play well in the NFL. You have that with a roster that you're already confident. You've added Josh Jacobs. I really like the pick of Matthew Golden. You got Tucker Kraft at tight end. You got Rashawn Gary on defense. Now you got Micah Parsons. You like a few different pieces they have. They can be that kind of a contender. But again, they have their franchise quarterback in place. So they can afford to cough up 2 first-round picks and say, hey, you know what? We're going all in. We're getting the best young defensive player on the market right now, and that's Micah Parsons. And the Steelers just aren't in that position yet. Now, maybe in a couple years' time, they will be. But the Steelers still need to find their quarterback. The Steelers are not making trades because you're saying, oh, what about – it doesn't have to be Micah Parsons. Chris, what about Terry McLaurin? What about this guy? What about that guy? The bottom line is that the Steelers aren't trying to go all in for a single year. I know some people think that that's the ticket and that's what you want to do because that's the hot and cool thing that people want to do all the time. But most of the times when teams do that, they fail. They'll look cool for a second, but they'll fall flat on their face, and then they'll have repercussions for years because they passed up on the opportunities to build for the long term. No, what you want to be doing is you want to build to have a run of years, which is what the Steelers are trying to do right now. And I think it's what the Packers have kind of set themselves up to be in, right? They got Jordan Love. They got other young pieces around. They're excited to have it. Now Micah Parsons can be one of those young pieces. But the reason the Steelers are doing what they're doing right now is they need to conserve their draft capital for this upcoming season so that they can go get their quarterback. And again, I think this is the good quarterback class that they can go get somebody in. I think Lenore Sellers, Cade Klubnik, a lot of those guys. There's got Garrett Nussmeier. There's guys out there. I'm not even talking about Arch Manning because he's probably not going to be in the class. But if the Steelers want to open that window, they can't afford to just be throwing picks away at this point. High picks they're going to count for the right now. And the Steelers do have a nucleus of players that can contribute right now, as well as a nucleus of players that they're developing and moving forward. And that is the plan. The plan is to stick to that so that they can get to a point where, hey, you know what? They're like me. There might be a legit five-year window with this young quarterback and the nucleus that they've assembled to be Super Bowl contenders before they got to retool some parts. That's what they're trying to get to, so they can have multiple bites at the apple. But if you just try to set up like for a 1 year quick hit, all it takes is an injury or two, and it's done. And we've seen that. How many Steelers seasons have been derailed by an injury at just the most inopportune point? I mean, that was a lot of the 2010s, right? Le'Veon Bell goes down right before the playoffs in 2014. The entire Steelers offense goes down in 2015. Le'Veon Bell goes down in 2016. Brian Shazier goes down in 2017. Bing, bing, boom, boom. That era was gone. And it was a bunch of injuries. But again, you give yourself multiple chances to have to say, hey, if we can get healthy and keep our stars ready for that time, maybe we can get there. And I think that's where the Steelers have to keep their eyes on the prize there and not be sucked into trying to make the big trades just to make the big trades. And again, good for the Packers that they were able to do this. They're in a different stage of their rebuilding process than the Steelers are. But I still think that the Steelers are in a good position right now to set themselves up to have a very good window if they do things right. Again, I like the development of this offensive line. And remember, the biggest thing this year, it's not Aaron Rodgers, it's not DK Metcalf, it's the development of the trenches. Can the offensive line become a more consistent unit and build it and get its way to becoming a dominant unit in the next few years? Can the defensive line find cohesion and help stuffing the run and get them back to being a solid unit there so that teams can't run the ball on them the way the Eagles and the Ravens did at the end of the season last year? If those two things manifest this year and carry themselves into the near future for the Steelers, look out, this team becomes a lot more dangerous. And then if you take those things with the star power that's still on the team and you add a young quarterback that plugs in, and then the Steelers have one of the young guns in the NFL that's really talented and everyone has to watch out for, then all of a sudden you're a real Super Bowl contender. And not for 1 year because you sold out all your draft picks, not for a short run, but for a good while. That's what you want to have. I mean, look at all these other teams that are out there. The Chiefs are the one team that's got the dynasty thing going right now. The Eagles could if they win another with this Hurts crew. But look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen, they're trying to get Josh Allen to the Super Bowl. He can't get there. Look at Lamar Jackson. 3 MVPs, can't get to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow, he's been to the Super Bowl once, but he's missed the playoffs more times than he's made it. And I think the key here is that you got to set yourself up for those bigger windows because you never know which one of those years is the year that everything aligns, where you don't have the big injury that derails your season, where you do get the right matchup, or sometimes you get you're there and everything's right, but you just lose to a better team. It happens. But that's why the Steelers are setting up the way that they are setting up. They'll make the trades. And again, Omar Khan isn't sitting with his hands in his pockets, not doing anything. A lot of people said, "Oh, we're tired of Micah Fitzpatrick not getting interceptions." Okay, cool. They brought in Jalen Ramsey, sent him out. They went and got Jonnu Smith to add to the offense. They moved the guys around. They went and got DK Metcalf in the offseason, basically swapped him in and out for George Pickens. They've rebuilt the trenches with their recent picks, and we have reasons to be excited about all those picks this year, with the way Broderick Jones and Trey Faltanu finished the preseason, with the way Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black looked there. Even other guys like Caleb Johnson, I think there's some excitement there, and also guys that have been developing there. Zach Frazier's another one, and we'll get to the defense in a bit here because I think that there's a chance that this defense weakest link is a lot harder to get at than the past few years where they've had a weak link. And that's where I think that this Steelers team, as it's doing right now, can be good. But the 2025 plan is bigger than 2025. You're not here to just win for this year, and you want to win this year. You want to go as far as you can. If they win a Super Bowl, great, awesome. It'll be an amazing story. But that's ultimately the biggest thing that you have inside is you want to build yourself back up to having that window. And you don't do that by selling the farm and giving up multiple first-round picks before you're in it. The Packers are in their window. Jordan Love is entering his prime. That's good for them. But you got to get yourself to there before you make those moves, and then you sell the farm before you ever get your quarterback. Imagine if the Steelers traded 2 first-round picks. They got Micah Parsons, great. Maybe they give up Alex Highsmith in the process, and you get Parsons and Watt, and they're the best edge rushing duo in the NFL. They're locking things up, but then you still don't have a quarterback for the next 5 years. That's what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to put yourself in the position where that's not the issue anymore. And I remind Steelers fans that they've got to stick to the plan. Because if they don't, and they throw the plan out, what was all this working and developing and getting all these young guys for? And you'll just have to hit another reset button, and then that's what bad franchises do, and they end up keep hitting the reset button, like teams like the Browns, teams like the Cardinals, teams like the Jaguars, and since they fired Tom Coughlin, teams like the Giants. You don't want to fall into that cycle, and how you stay out of that cycle is you keep developing and you keep moving your guys, and when it's time to make the big move, you've saved up the ammunition for it, and you go after it. I think that move will come in the draft, but it's not right now going for a guy like Micah Parsons or any other big name that's going to compromise your chance at finding that franchise quarterback in the draft this next year. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to take you into the Steelers locker room. I talked with Patrick Queen, and I think we had some interesting conversation that kind of leads me to a point where I think there's one aspect of the Steelers defense we have not talked about that could really be a big boost for them, and that's the question, what is their weakest link? We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. Be right back. But first, remind you that this show is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Locked On Steelers fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app that you can download today for free. The Upside app is in the App Store or Google Play right now. Start earning cash at the pump today. I use my unlimited promo code TOUCHDOWN, all in capital letters, TOUCHDOWN, and you can get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app today by using the limited time promo. That's Touchdown. For a limited time, you get 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Disclaimer, offers vary by user per location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. We're also brought to you by Game Time. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100 to get in. I love zone deals, too. If you pick a section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show, but before we do, we got to remind you about the important survey that we got going on, and we have an important request that because Locked On wants to hear from you, our listeners and viewers. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make our favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right, Steelers fans. So I think one thing that we look at sometimes, we look at the strengths of teams, we look at the weaknesses of teams. And we looked at one of the weaknesses of the Steelers that kind of led to problems throughout the defense. And I'd say one of the biggest weaknesses the Steelers had, we could talk about the run defense at the end of the season, but it was the slot cornerback position, which we talked a little bit about, I believe, on yesterday's show with Nick. But I think the thing is that the weakest link now on this team might be a lot more protected, or at least on this defense, it might be a lot more protected than it has been in recent years. And it still requires the development of this defensive line. You still need to see Derek Harmon get healthy, Y.A. Black play well. You still need to see this defensive line coalesce and be good against the run. But if that defensive line does that, and Jalen Ramsey plays like he looks like he could in camp, and Joey Porter Jr. continues to grow, and Darius Slay is just a good cornerback on the outside there, you already like what you see out of Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. You have a good backup in Cole Holcomb. Maybe your weakest link is Juan Thornhill in this defense. And that's a guy who basically his job is, hey, just don't get beat deep. Keep the play in front of you. And that's not as, I think, taxing of a job as some of the other roles where, like last year when I told you guys Cam Sutton would be needing to disguise different things and jump into a different spot and cover this guy man-to-man, he just couldn't do it anymore. And if that weakest link is less accessible to the offense, because to opposing offenses, because the Steelers have built up the rest of their defense so well, and they're able to do more things that confuse you and can attack you, I think that's a positive. But I want to take you inside the Steelers locker room again, as I normally do. I had a nice one-on-one with Patrick Queen. As always, he's great to talk to, and I thought there were some interesting tidbits he gave us there. He gives us in this conversation just about why there's confidence in some of the older guys who are veterans and some of the younger guys, that the communication, the maturity of the defense, the asking of what's going to be needed to get the job done, all of that is there. We also get and you'll see if you watch this clip, we also get a nice surprise guest question asker in there. It gets kind of funny for a sec. But here's Patrick Queen in the Steelers locker room. You'll get what I mean.
Patrick, you guys have all these new faces, but now you guys have had a few months to gel. What do you feel like about the progress as far as communication, making sure everyone's in the right spots?
Yeah, with a lot of new pieces, we did a great job of gelling already. And that's just the whole emphasis throughout camp and throughout now, just keeping that steady flowing. And it's been great. You know, Jalen and Nick already at safety with Deshaun coming down, with Juan back there. Just all the guys that we got, everybody has done a great job of communicating. I think that's going to carry us the whole way through the season. So as long as we keep that good, we'll be all right.
What do you think about like Juan as an extra communicator? You know, because he's one of those guys that's going to be in the middle of the field with you guys.
It's huge, especially with him being in the middle of the field. He might be able to see things that we can't see. So that's going to be huge for us. That's like I said, all the guys back there they heavy communicators. Besides when they talking trash and stuff, just getting them good play calls in, and let them communicate what they see and what they want us to do on our level. That's going to be huge for us.
What do you think is unique about your linebacker group? I mean, you, Peyton, and Cole, I don't recall a time seeing three dudes that can play sideline to sideline as much as you guys do.
Yeah, I think, bro, can you please go on about your business, bro?
I just want to ask questions. Bro, I got some questions.
You don't have no questions. All right, can you ask the question again, please? This guy here, man.
What do you? I'm sorry, that threw me off. What can you say about how versatile this linebacker group is with you, Peyton, and Cole? All three of you guys can play sideline to sideline.
I think when you look at our linebacker group, people might try to kind of underestimate us because they don't think we could do everything. But I think our linebacker room, we got every single guy that can do everything on the field: cover, blitz, play and run. And we have worked extremely hard this offseason to be great at every single thing. Coach Scott and Coach JB have been on our tails the whole offseason about the specifics and attention to detail and things. So our group, very versatile. I think we got a chance to do a lot of damage.
So that versatility is important, but first of all, that was Nick Herbig who just came up and just does that. That is one of my favorite trolls that happens in the Steelers locker room, is when a guy comes up and tries to join the press pool real quick to ask questions and they get goofy. And that's one of the funny things that happens in the Steelers locker room. But I think when I look at this defense and I was assessing, like, okay, what are the things that could go wrong for this defense, or what are the things that I think could legitimately happen? Now, like, there could always be things that just don't develop right, like Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black and this young defensive line and Keanu Ben. Maybe they don't turn into this stronger unit that they look like they could be at this point in the in the year, right? Maybe Joey Porter Jr. doesn't take that step up and he still is committing a lot of penalties and things like that. Maybe there's things like that, but I think that there's a good chance that those things don't happen in a way that hurts, that kills the Steelers. And so I look around and I think, okay, maybe Juan Thornhill, isn't the best free safety option for this team. But if that's the one thing that you have, I think, one, it's going to take time to have to get after a Juan Thornhill in an offense, because, again, he's further back. So by the time that you're getting the ball out to attack his part of the field most of the time, you're holding on to the ball for 4 or 5 seconds if the cornerbacks are doing their job. And if you're holding on to the ball for 4 or 5 seconds, that's giving time for TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, and all the other pass rushers to get after the quarterback and to play their kind of ball. And that's kind of what you want as the Steelers. And I think that that's where this could work for the Steelers. And, he talked about communication. I know some people out there, they get so tired of it. It's like, oh, the Steelers, they just don't ever communicate. They're always talking about, like, we got to communicate, and then they don't communicate, and then they're stuck. That's not how it works. Communication is a constant thing that happens for all defenses. Even the best defenses blow their communication from time to time. Now, the best defenses recover from that and eventually bounce back, and they figure, hey, how did we get got in this situation? Okay, that's how we get got. Go back and watch the America's Game documentary on Super Bowl 10 for the Steelers. And this is old football. This is before super analytics or anything like that. But Mike Wagner talks about a pass that Roger Staubach got him with early in Super Bowl 10. And he was just like, he saw this alignment. He took advantage of it. I'm going to be ready for this the next time. The next time that Roger Staubach gave them that alignment and they said it, Mike Wagner sat on it, was ready for it, and they communicated, and he made a big play in that situation. That's part of what good and great defenses do. But still, good and great defenses get beat. Let's talk about one of the more modern defenses that gets talked about as one of the best defenses that have come in the last 20 years or so. We'll talk about the 2015 Broncos that went on to win the Super Bowl with old man Peyton Manning, who was playing with like a fused neck by the end of the season. You remember when the Steelers played them, not in the playoffs, but in the regular season, and they dropped 34 points on their heads, including 21 points unanswered in the second half. That was that defense. That was Von Miller. That was Chris Harris. That was Bradley Roby, Aqib Talib, Brandon Marshall, Danny Trevathan. They had Shane Ray. They had guys. They had lots of guys on that team. It was a well-built defense that was aggressive, and Von Miller was in his prime and unstoppable at that point in time. But the Steelers took it to them, and there were times they miscommunicated. They got beat. Are they a sad defense? No, but they got beat. The thing was, though, later in the year they adjusted, and then of course when they played the Steelers, it helped not having to play D'Angelo Williams or Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger having one shoulder, and they were down to like fourth and fifth string running backs in that game. But again, that defense got beat at times, and I think that's where people don't understand when a miscommunication happens. It's not bad if it happens one time. But if it continues to happen, and that's what's happening, especially with Beanie Bishop and Cam Sutton last year, that's when you can cost your team, and that's when you can go from being potentially a great defense to a good defense, a decent defense. And that's what the Steelers can't be this year. They can't be just good or decent. They have to be very good. They have to be great. They have to be elite this year if they're going to be real competitors. And I think they can be, and they think they can be. But to fulfill that, they've got to show it in that communication level. We'll talk more about the offense next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you this show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on the big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the game. For this weekend, Prize Picks is offering major discounts. You can get a max discount that's so easy to score with that you can get Dak Prescott on a max discount for the season opener, where if he throws more than half a passing yard, you win. If you're excited for some key Steelers, DK Metcalf is one player who could overperform this year with Aaron Rodgers and as the team's number one wide receiver. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you can still double up on your money. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 of lineups after you play your first $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our episode here today. I want to switch to the offensive side of the ball. And it kind of stems a little bit from what we talked about yesterday with Nick Farabaugh, in that I think there's more to exploit in this offense if you have a smart quarterback. And I do think that Aaron Rodgers is a smart quarterback, however you feel about him off the field. I think that guy is one of the best processors. Like I put him up there when I talk about processors of the field generals, guys that can understand what defenses are doing just by reading the pre-snap alignment, adjusting to what they do at the start of the snap, and understanding how to combine that knowledge with the knowledge of their own playbook and their own teammates and how those skills will interact. There are certain guys that are at the very top. Now, in my time watching football, the best at doing that is Tom Brady. That's Tom Brady's biggest trait. I don't care about his arm. I don't care about his toughness, all that other stuff. That man could process so quickly. Now, you could say there's some Spygate stuff there, but that's part of what made him great. And I think that's what really helped the Patriots in their toughest times, was that you could throw a lot of things at him. The only thing that he couldn't really beat sometimes was if you had a pass rush that was getting after him with 4 guys and the coverage was just plastering man to man and his guys couldn't get loose. That's why the Giants won those Super Bowls. But when you compare it to Aaron Rodgers, another elite processor of the field who sees what's going on. And sure, he needs good things around him, just like everybody else does. But that's a factor that the Steelers can use to their advantage that I don't think that they've had in several years. Even Ben Roethlisberger, I feel like Ben Roethlisberger, there's different stages to his career, right? When he was young Ben Roethlisberger and he won his Super Bowls, he was the young gunslinger Ben Roethlisberger. He didn't care if he threw 3 interceptions in the game, he's going to come out and still be Ben Roethlisberger. But as he got older, he had to get smarter because he couldn't just take all the hits that he used to take. Todd Haley helped him become a smarter quarterback. And I'd say between 2016 to 2021, he started to become that smarter quarterback that you saw. Okay, now he's picking out weaknesses very consistently and he's finding it more and more. Now, he still never got to the level of an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady when it comes to that skill set. I think still Ben Roethlisberger's just cannon of an arm, his big bodied size, his ability to get away from things. That's part of what made him, a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. But when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I think he has that element of his game in spades. And when you have that element of your game in spades, you got to use that to your advantage if you're the Steelers. And if you're a team that has these different skill set as far as playmakers, you got to find ways to exploit that on the field. And I do think, despite them not having a proven, bona fide, definite number 2 wide receiver on the team, I do think that with DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, they have the pass catchers that can do that. And we got to talk to Jonnu Smith, I think it was Wednesday in the Steelers locker room, their last day of practice before the break, before week 1. And I liked some of the answers that he gave when he talked about not just Aaron Rodgers and why they're so confident in him, but also why he's so excited to work with this tight end set and the others compared to the other special tight ends that he's worked with in this past part of his careers. Here was Jonnu Smith in the Steelers locker room.
Johnny, you use the word genius to describe Aaron. how does that manifest itself? I mean, what makes him a genius?
Just the way he sees the game. I mean, he's been playing. That's another guy who's, how many years he got?
20.
20, you know what I mean? So 20 years ago, I'm in 5th grade right now. I'm outside in this, playing with my guys, jumping in the local swimming pool, you know what I'm saying? And, this guy's, been in training camp for 20 years. And so just the knowledge that he's, has and the things that he saw, and he saw everything. He's got all of the answers to the test. And like I said, you want to play with a guy like that. And I've been around a lot of talented quarterbacks. And, this for him to be playing at the level that he is, it's admirable. You know what I mean? It's admirable. And I'm excited to be going out there with him.
Last two for
your
Jonnu.
Career playing with other tight ends, with Laney Walker and with Pitts. What makes those combinations successful when you have two guys?
Two tight ends?
Yeah.
The guys. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, man, we it's a collective. It's a collective. And when I say the guys, I'm talking about all 11. You know what I mean? Going out there and as great as the job as Coach Tomlin can do, or all of our position coaches, Fredo, you know what I mean, from Z and all of those guys, Pat, man, they can draw everything up and put us in the best position, but we got to go out there and execute.
I think this is the thing that Jonnu Smith getting at here is that with the talent that they have and a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who again he was pointing out, he's like, I was in the 5th grade when that guy came in the league. It's just always kind of funny when you compare ages of players, but there are going to be things that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to take advantage of a lot better than what the Steelers have had in recent years. Even Russell Wilson, who last year, is another quarterback who's seen a lot of defenses and can read defenses, but he couldn't exploit the middle part of the field simply because that wasn't in his skill set, wasn't in his repertoire because he was a shorter quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that problem. And he is good at attacking the middle part of the field. And that's why you're going to see a lot more in-breaking routes. And we've covered that throughout training camp, is that's what we're seeing. Guys like Scotty Miller, Calvin Austin when he's healthy, Roman Wilson, Jonnu Smith, Pat Fryman, all those guys are breaking to the middle part of the field and making that at least an option for Aaron Rodgers to use. And there's going to be mismatch opportunities for Jonnu Smith and Pat Fryman and Daniel Washington, by the way, as a tight end group, for Aaron Rodgers to target. And I think that's the thing the Steelers really need to hone in on, is finding where those are at and give them opportunities. I know there's a lot of people out there, and maybe not a lot of people, there's a few loud people out there that don't like Pat Frymuth and think that he's way overrated. They shouldn't have paid him the money that they paid him. But I think Pat Frymuth has done a good job with what was in front of him. He's made plays, and sure, he's missed plays. He dropped a pass at the end of that Bengals game that could have helped him get in field goal range. No, he's not without his faults. But I think that if you put him if you give him this year and you see Aaron Rodgers give him some more opportunities, I think you're going to see a different Pat Frymuth than what you've seen for some time, because I do think his ability to get open, to catch the ball, to make plays with the ball in his hands, I think those are going to be big things that if Aaron Rodgers comes in and plays the Steelers system well, the way I think he can, it's going to open up a lot for this Steelers team. Now, again, I still don't think this is a top 10 offense. I still think it's going to be up in that tier, but you're going to see them be able to win more things than they have in recent years so that they can be a better offense. Again, when I look at how the Steelers have were last year, they were the 16th best scoring offense, 23rd in yards. I do think that they're going to be better in both respects this year, just as pure numbers wise. I think they're going to put up more points. I think they're going to turn over the ball less. I think they're going to get more yards in general. I also think they'll win the time of possession more consistently. They rank 20th in their average time of possession on offense. And they need to be up higher. And I think that's the one thing. If they're able to up that part because they're a more efficient offense, because they don't 3-and-out as much, because they are able to hold on to the football more, and they get into that upper half, that's going to let the Steelers defense be less tired, have to show less things throughout the season, and get them to later in the season without having to be out there so much. And if Aaron Rodgers is part of that, if this tight end group is part of that, I think that can be huge. And I do think the potential is there, but they've got to exploit it each week. Not every week is going to be the same. Not every week is going to have the same advantages. I thought that the shame of Ben Roethlisberger's knees giving out on him in 2020, the way they did, was that throughout the early part of that season, when they were on that 11-0 run, if you go back to my episodes of doing this podcast, and in fact, I think that was before I was on YouTube, so you have to go back and find like the audio versions. I noted there was a 4 or 5 game stretch during there where every game there was another leading receiver for Ben Roethlisberger. It was one week it was Claypool, next week it was Juju, this week it was this guy, it was this guy, it was this guy, and it was passing it around. And that was the thing that I thought that Ben Roethlisberger, I think, was starting to get to the cerebral part of his game where he could make it hard for you to understand who he was going to. Even back in like 2017 and 2016, there were times where you just knew he was throwing the ball to Antonio Brown because that's the best guy on the team. But sometimes teams would sit on that and it would cost them in big games. It's what the Patriots, did so well in the AFC Championship game in the 2016 year when Le'Veon Bell got hurt. They said, we're going to take away Antonio Brown because you can't beat us with the other guys on this team. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is not going to have that problem. If teams just, we're taking away DK Metcalf, you're not going to be able to score with him. I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to say, okay, cool, I got these guys over here, and he'll be able to use them to his advantage. If he does that, I think that'll help the Steelers get out of some tight spots this year. And again, I don't think it's going to make them elite. I don't think this is a Super Bowl team this year, but I do think this is a team that wins 11 games. I do think this is a team that can get to the playoffs and maybe in a better playoff position than they have been since maybe the 2020 season when they won their division because they started off 11-0 that year. I think that's the situation they can get to. Now, I don't think they can win the division this year, but I do think they can get to a position because I do think the Ravens are just going to be that good of a team. But I do think that they can be better than the Bengals. I'm very certain they can be better than the Browns. And I think they can be around the same range as maybe like the lowest division winner this year. And that might be the AFC South again, whether that's the Texans or the Jaguars or whoever comes out of that division. And again, if they get to the playoffs and that's the team they have to face, and they do the things I think they can do this year, I like their chances. But, again, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and something that can happen this year that hasn't happened, I think those exploits are there to be had. We'll see if he's able to do that this time next week. Not this time next week, excuse me. This time next week, we'll be previewing the season opener. But, y'all, it's about to be football week, y'all. But the next time I'm on with you guys will be Monday here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, and we'll be getting ready for week 1 finally. And I am so excited. I'm also excited for college football this weekend. There's a lot of great matchups. We're going to keep an eye on college football to see a lot of the quarterbacks we've been keeping tabs on. I want to talk about them throughout the year as well. So we will be doing some tracking on that. But we'll have a lot to get into. We hope that you have a great Labor Day holiday weekend. Get out there, do some grilling, do some chilling, hang out with the family, enjoy some time. And we will be back Monday with an episode. Just because it's Labor Day doesn't mean we will take it off. We'll still get you your Steelers fix here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all social medias. I have the same handle. It's at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. You can find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down your Pittsburgh Steelers right here on your favorite podcasting app and on YouTube. Like this if you enjoyed, subscribe to this channel to get all of our daily episodes. Back here Monday on Labor Day, breaking down your Steelers on the Locked On Steelers podcast.